A sparkling setting here on beautiful Sydney Harbour as we're just under 15 minutes from the start of the 2022 SOLAS Big Boat Challenge, a race that has time on it going back a quarter of a century. And it's a very special one today because it's the final race, the climax of the Australian Maxi Championship. And there are 3 100-footers vying for that Lion Honours title at the moment. So 11 boats are taking part in the SOLAS Big Boat Challenge here today on Sydney Harbour. And alongside me is resident CYC sailing guru Peter Shipway. Pete, conditions suggest we're in for a pretty swift race.
Yes, good afternoon, Gordon. Good afternoon to everyone. Beautiful day out on the harbour. A southerly passed through Sydney overnight after the sparkling nor'easter yesterday, and we've got a nice southerly to southeasterly breeze of about 12 to 16 knots. It's going to be a very fast race. They'll streak down towards Canai Point near Manly on the first leg with reaching sails set, and they'll set a breathtaking pace down there, there's no doubt about that. And we've got, as you said, about 14 minutes to the start. The starting area is just at the head of Double Bay between Point Piper and Clark Island. And then the fleet, after they get to Canai Point, will come back to the next turning mark, which will be at Shark Island. So they'll almost lay back through in one leg there. So a very fast race indeed. A bit of a different course this year because Fort Denison is out of play because of some works they're doing up near Fort Denison and Garden Island. So we can't use Fort Denison as a rounding mark as we have in previous years. But nonetheless, plenty to play for. And the 4 Maxis will dominate for line honours, but the real battle could be for handicap honours.
Well, the Australian Maxi Championship started last year. The idea was to give the bigger boats more outings, more experience for crews prior to the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. And looking at the Lion Honours standings in the 100-footers at the moment, we see that there are 3 boats all equal on 7 points. Hamilton Island Wild Oats, Mark Richards, Andoo Comanche and LawConnect, with Blackjack back in 4th place, Peter. So we can say that the Lion Honours winner today is going to take the Lion Honours Australian Maxi Championship for 2022.
Yes, that's correct. But of course, we have to remember yesterday that they had 2 races, short offshore races, and Andoo Comanche was first home in both, but however there was a protest in the second race of yesterday, and Andoo Comanche was disqualified and penalised, so that robbed her of victory. So that brought the 3 boats into place today, as you said, Wild Oats, Comanche and LawConnect all on 7 points. So the winner out of those 3 will grab the overall trophy. But I think we saw yesterday that Andoo Comanche was pretty swift, as we've expected all year. And I think she's probably going to be the boat to beat around this short track today.
Well, looking at the handicap situation with the 100-footers, we see that Hamilton Island Wild Oats is actually leading ahead of LawConnect, and also Blackjack, with Andoo Comanche after that disqualification that Peter mentioned, dropping back to 4th place. So a lot of interest in these 100-footers. There are 4 of them. They're vying for the glory here in the SOLAS Big Boat Challenge, which is the climax of the Australian Maxi Championship. And we also mentioned the 6 Mini Maxis. We have a live Moneypenny, No Limit, URM Group, which has been in scintillating form, Whisper and also Willow. And also competing in the SOLAS Big Boat race by invitation to make it a fleet of 11 overall is Stefan Racing from Queensland, Grant Warrington. So we're in for a very hectic blast, I would suggest, around the Sydney Harbour. A couple of laps. And Peter Shipway, what about the situation with those Mini Maxis? Who has dominated there?
Well, URM has been the standout performer. She won the Cabbage Tree race for the Mini Maxis on Friday night. She was 1st and 2nd yesterday, so she's been in pretty good form. Jason Waterhouse, a well-known Olympic yachtsman and a Sail GP yachtsman, has joined that crew. He's added some real strength to that. And as we're talking now, there's the point score for the Mini Maxis. You can see URM clearly ahead there on 3 points. Alive, the Hobart winner, is in 2nd spot. So you'd have to say on those point score given that probably URM it looks pretty favoured to win the Mini Maxi Division, with Willow in third spot, Jim Cooney's Volvo 70 that won the second race yesterday. So everyone's in with a chance, but I think URM will be highly favoured to take that title.
Yes, there's a very interesting crew member on board Willow. As you mentioned, they beat the other Mini Maxis yesterday in the second passage race off Sydney Heads, and we'll let you know who that person is as we get into the telecast, but he's a surprise crew member, but certainly a celebrated Australian sportsman. But Jim Cooney delighted with the performance of Willow, the former Volvo 70, which is really enjoying those fresher conditions that we saw off the Heads yesterday.
Just watching Hamilton Island Wild Oats just tacking around, coming back towards the starting line. She's had a pretty good series on handicap. She's leading the Maxi Division on handicap on 6 points, just ahead of LawConnect. Mark Richards at the helm, as he has been all through her career. Of course, she's a 9 times Line Honours winner in the Sydney Hobart race, and won the triple Line Honours handicap and race record twice in 2005, the year of her launching, and again in 2012. And to leeward of her, just ahead, is LawConnect, Christian Beck's 1K design. And of course, she also has won Line Honours in the Hobart race. 2016 as Perpetual Loyal. And at that time, she set the race record for the Hobart race of 1 day, 13 hours. And that was lowered by Andoo Comanche, who has won 3 times Line Honours, 2015, 2017, and 2019, and she holds the current race record of 1 day, 9 hours in the Hobart race. But this is a very different race today in the harbour, short course, a lot of crew work, and there's Stefan Racing, the colourful yacht there, hard to miss, colourful skipper in Grant Warrington and a colourful hull.
Yes, Hamilton Island Wild Oats 11 actually has the fastest ever time to Hobart, but was penalised after that incident just after the start in the harbour back in 2017. Peter, you mentioned the race course. It's going to be a sprint up to that Canai Point mark just below North Head.
Yes, they'll start there at, as I said, between Point Piper and Clark Island, down to Canai Point. All marks rounded to starboard, then back to Shark Island. There's a laid mark about 100 metres southeast of the island. Back to Canai, back to Shark Island, and then back to the finish towards Garden Island. So short, sharp and sweet race. No room for error.
And we're just under 6 minutes before the start of this year's race.
There's the great shot overhead from the drone. You can see all the boats manoeuvring round in Double Bay. All got headsail set, but with furling sails hoisted to unfurl at the starting line. It'll be a close reach down the harbour. The boats will be going so quickly that they'll bring the apparent wind forward very quickly, so won't be on their full reaching sails, big full sails. They'll be on lot flatter sails because the angle will be pretty tight down the harbour. You can see a good conglomeration of cruising spectator boats in the foreground. And there's the 5-minute gun. We're under 5 minutes under starters orders now. There's LawConnect just coming down near the committee boat, the big white and blue hull of Christian Beck's charge. So I think they'll start, Gordon, probably down towards the middle or the pin end, the furthest away from the committee boat end, just to get a better angle of attack down the harbour. And also, it's a bit light up near the committee boat where we are because they're in the lee of a bit of Point Piper with this south-southeasterly breeze. We've got about 12, probably 16 knots once we poke our nose out into the harbour proper, away from the lee of the land. And the channel marker at the Western Channel is showing about 15 knots southeaster at the moment. So plenty of breeze and plenty of room for excitement, but plenty of room for error as well on this very short, tight course. There we are on board load limit.
Just over 4 minutes to the start. SOLAS Big Boat Challenge, as we mentioned, is going to decide the 2022 Australian Maxi Championship. And we saw that incident at the start of the second passage race yesterday where LawConnect successfully protested Andoo Comanche. And Andoo Comanche disqualified, so there'll be plenty of respect there today. Andoo Comanche actually protested Wild Oats, Hamilton Island Wild Oats, but that was dismissed. And as a consequence, we have LawConnect, Andoo Comanche and Hamilton Island Wild Oats really vying for the Lion honours now in the Australian Maxi Championship.
Just as we're speaking now, Gordon, the breeze has picked up a little bit coming out of Double Bay. It's come round to the south a little bit more, and some really good puffs coming across the starting line, probably 15, 16 knots. That is going to be a very fast passage down to Canoi Point near Manly. See the massive sails of LawConnect there just to the right of the screen, just dwarfing some of those smaller Mini Maxis. There's URM, the boat that's done so well on handicap. Marcus Ashley Jones at the helm, and I believe 4 brothers on board, the 4 owners to board today, Gordon.
Yes, that's right.
Brothers.
The 4 brothers on board. Anthony, David, Andrew and Nick. Crew also includes Olympic medalist Jason Waterhouse, plus navigator Alice Tonorski. It's a very well-performed boat. Won the Maxi and Mini Maxi Division of the famous Rolex Giralia Regatta back in 2010.
So out to make amends, certainly in the Hobart race on Boxing Day. They retired last year, but they've been performing very solidly this season as we've got just on 2 minutes to go. You can see the fleet all stacked back towards Clark Island. They're all going to be down to the middle, to the leeward end of the line, I believe. And that's probably the best angle of attack down the harbour. Minute 50 to go. They're just starting to put the pedals down now. It's all time on distance now. If you get the timing right, well, you're in good shape. But as we saw on Friday night with Hamilton Island Wild Oats, they're probably about 2 or 3 seconds early, and they had to go back as they were recalled. So they've all got conventional headsails at the moment, ready to unfurl the reaching sails. There's LawConnect, left of screen. Just starting to put the bow down now, with a minute 15 to go. Their instrumentation would tell them how far to go to the line and how long it's going to take. So it's all very technical on board. The navigator's got a good part to play here. There's Andoo Comanche right on Clark Island. Okay, there's a minute to go. A few boats early, few boats putting the bow up. URM closest to the committee boat. Andoo down towards Clark Island. LawConnect trying to find a hole to get into.
And Stefan Racing's going to mix it with the big boys.
Yeah, well, that's Warrow. He likes mixing it. Okay, they're just starting to get the bows down. 35 seconds to go. URM's going for it. URM's got room to work up, take off pace. There's URM putting the bow up. To leeward of her is Stefan Racing. Andoo looks pretty solid down to leeward. Okay, they're underway now with their sails unfurling. 15 seconds to go. Ooh, Stefan Racing looks early. He's got to go down, pull away and try and get down and cross the fleet. Here comes LawConnect charging through the middle. 4, 3, 2, 1. We're away. Terrific start from LawConnect, punching out in the middle. It's a clear start. Right at the weather end is URM and Whisper. You'll see them. There's Whisper with 62 on the bow. But below her is URM.
Well, it was a nice level start, wasn't it? But the acceleration from LawConnect was noticeable. And also Alive and Moneypenny starting a little further to leeward, but also just ahead of URM.
URM just dropping the headsail. They started up to windward.
Andoo Comanche starting to accelerate on the left, Peter, towards the western shore.
Yeah, LawConnect trying to drive hard with Andoo Comanche. Those two, as expected, out in front early on. Stefan Racing, a good start from Grant Warrington. That's the purple hull. And just behind her with a red flash on the sailors, Hamilton Island Wild Oats. And further back is Blackjack. They're just under Hetzel at the moment, Blackjack. But it's the moment the two big wide body boats in LawConnect and Andoo Comanche are on the charge towards Canoi Point. Andoo Comanche just getting their nose free of LawConnect now. Terrific start from both these boats. That's Bradley's Head in the background. And the lovely breeze on the harbour. Sparkling day. Probably 12 to 15 knots of southeasterly breeze. And the race is on.
And Andoo Comanche has made a statement early on with that acceleration. She's heeled right over at the moment, but she's just taken a narrow lead over LawConnect, wanting to erase the devastation of that disqualification in the second passage race yesterday.
You can just see the massive sails on these boats. LawConnect just up to windward of Andoo Comanche. Just astern of her is Hamilton Island Wild Oats 11, and then to windward on the left of screen, Stefan Racing.
Stefan Racing, the boat in 80, was bought by Grant Warrington's syndicate just 2 years ago and named after the hairdressing sponsor Stefan Ackery. She finished the 2021 Hobart 4th across the line. So she has the form on the board.
Okay, now the breeze got a little bit lighter here as they're approaching down towards, they're off Taylor Bay on the harbour with Bradley's Head in the background. So they both had to put their bows up a little bit as the breeze got a little bit lighter. There's quite a big spectator fleet out now as they're chasing the boats down the harbour. But they're the four leaders. And it's now LawConnect just gets a little bit more breeze. She's just to windward of Andoo, and you can see Andoo Comanche heeling way over. It's the way they like to sail this boat, plenty of heel. And they're doing about 20 odd knots down here, I'd say. 20, 21 knots. And just leaving the smaller Mini Maxis in their wake.
Wild Oats sailing a similar course to Andoo Comanche, but 150 metres astern now.
Yeah, that's off Clifton Gardens, Chowder Bay on the harbour. And it's like a mini Sydney Hobart start, Gordon, with all the spectator boats and mixing it right with the racing yachts. So LawConnect going for a bit more height, but there's the double head rig on Andoo Comanche. You'll probably see a pole out to leeward. That's the pole set to get a better angle of attack of the big J0 headsail, that it doesn't close in on the front sail, it just widens the sheety angle. And a lot of these maxi boats and smaller maxis are using this pole to leeward just to give a better angle of attack for the sail and not interfere with a smaller jib set on the inside of the bigger jib.
And Peter, John Winning Jr. and Ian Murray, no one knows Sydney Harbour like Ian Murray. They knew exactly where they wanted to be at the start, and they're having a ding-dong go here with LawConnect.
Yeah, they're just passing Western Channel Pile. There's the pile on the harbour. So they're probably halfway down this reach to Canoi Point. In the middle is Wild Oats, and just to windward of her with a lighter coloured spinnaker, reaching sailors Stefan Racing. And Blackjack has dropped way back. She didn't set that reaching sail early, and that's been to her disadvantage. But there's some good puffs of breeze coming out of Watson's Bay now, probably 12, 15 knots. Just as this breeze got a bit lighter, Andoo Comanche's been able to gain a little bit of a benefit out of this and jumped away from LawConnect by a couple of boat lengths now. see the windward rudder out of the water. She's got 2 rudders, Comanche, such as the beam of this boat, 25 feet or 8 metres in beam. They're massively wide, these boats, LawConnect and Andoo Comanche, compared to Hamilton Island, Wild Oats and Blackjack. They're off Obelisk, just passing to the west of Sound Pigs.
Well, as Peter mentioned, Andoo Comanche has taken line honours in every race of the Australian Maxi Championship, but after that disqualification, she starts behind the 8 ball today, but if she can emerge victorious for line honours, she'll take out the Maxi Championship on that basis. And she's certainly setting the pace at the moment and revelling in these conditions.
Well, at the moment, she's gained a real good gap there in the last quarter of a mile on LawConnect. LawConnect got a little bit soft, had to go bow up. Comanche was able to get the bow down. Here we are aboard Comanche. There's Ian Murray in the background, just going down to leeward to have a look at things. It's a real winning effort aboard this boat. John Winning Jr. has got his sister aboard and his father on board. So at the moment, they're certainly winning in more ways than one. They're just off Middlehead. There's the fleet. As we look back, that's now Blackjack has got his nose in front of Stefan. And the red shirts are the Wild Oats boys. So I think, Gordon, at the mark, it'll be quite clearly Andoo Comanche has stepped away to a good 100-metre lead. LawConnect will be second. Wild Oats, Hamilton Island Wild Oats 11 will be third.
And that's been indicative, Peter, hasn't it, with the starts? Wild Oats has struggled to have the acceleration at the start of these races. LawConnect's been vying with Andoo Comanche. But Andoo Comanche, you mentioned the winnings, John Senior and John Junior. John Senior says that he and his son probably get on better on the water than off it. Now, you know the family well. What do we read into that?
I think it's probably true. The trick down here now, Gordon, will be to furl these monstrous reaching sails. It's never easy. They've got to, they furl them up and just go into their smaller jibs that are set underneath the big reaching sails. They've got to get them furled nice and tight and then lower them to the deck so they can go upwind without the big furl sail on the head stay. So watching LawConnect now, she's about good 100 metres, 150 metres behind Andoo Comanche, who'll have a very good lead at the Canai turning mark. So they all start to furl shortly.
Around 2,000 square metres of sail up there for Andoo Comanche.
Okay, here's the race leader. There they go for the furl. They put the bow down, furl the sail, it'll disappear. It'll just have a conventional jib underneath. Okay, furl's done. Now they've got to get that down to the deck. So they'll come on the wind and they'll sail starting to come down. They'll probably tidy that up once they tack. Here they go. They're around and the lead is substantial. Around they go, sail coming down. It'll tidy that up when they tack. Okay, there they tack, and as they tack, the sail will fall down to windward. All very neat. And they're on the way back to Shark Island.
Good battle for the second two, with Wild Oats putting pressure on LawConnect here as we approach the Cano Point mark.
Yeah, LawConnect's got the furl done. It'll be LawConnect and the delta time difference will be about 40 seconds. So that's a pretty good early lead. You can see that furl sail coming down to leeward. They'll tack over, which will become the windward side. It'll just flop down on the deck. Another 15 seconds behind. Here comes Hamilton Island Wild Oats. And then a long gap then to Blackjack. Oh, Wild Oats is tacking early. There they go. And that furling sail just going to be laying down on the deck. Good job from Mark Richards and his crew. All good crew work on these top 3 boats. And next around, about 1:20 behind the race leader, comes Blackjack.
So LawConnect just suffered a little there, rounding that mark, and Wild Oats has now snuck into second place. And LawConnect starting to accelerate, heading back towards Shark Island, and Blackjack standing on in fourth of the 100-footers.
Okay, well, there's the next group to come round. Stefan off camera will be next around, Stefan Racing. And then we're on Willow, Jim Cooney's Volvo 70. Just a bit late on that furl on the Willow. We'll stick with them at the moment. They still can't get the furl done. And they're only about 2 boat lengths from the mark. Got to hurry up, boys. There it is. Oh, it's still not that tidy. Yep, okay, they've got it done. So they're round after Stefan Racing. And then here come the Mini Maxis. Oh, there's Willow, little untidy there at that mark. It's imperative to get those furl sails down, Gordon, because they really are an impediment going upwind. Not only the weight, but the windage. It affects the wind on the jib. As Willow's around, and following her will be alive. So, just to recap, we're at the first turning mark, we had Andoo, Comanche, LawConnect, Hamilton Island, Wild Oats, Blackjack, Stefan Racing, Willow alive. URM will be next, with a good gap then to Moneypenny, followed by No Limit, and then Whisper will be bringing up the rear. And here's a bit of trouble on Alive. Oh, she can't, the sail didn't furl. No, sorry, that is Willow. That is Willow. It was untidy from the word go there, and you can see what a disadvantage that is. That sail flogging round to leeward. It's unfurled, very untidy. They've got to get that sail down. Okay. Still see they're in trouble there, Gordon. The Willow boys trying to get that sail below. You've got to put the bow up now to slow down. Oh, okay, there's URM. Looking strong already on handicap.
Well, that's bad news for Willow, because they're having a terrific battle in the Mini Maxis with Alive for the second place behind URM. That's going to really hurt them. But the surprise crewman on board, Willow, is the former Wallaby captain Michael Hooper.
Well, yeah, we'll come back to that in a moment, Gordon, but we're looking at Blackjack. Mark Bradford skippering the boat for Peter Harburg. You will see on the back runner there a red flag. That signifies a protest flag, which probably may be of an incident at the start. So that may have a little bit to play out yet in this race. But there's definitely a protest flag on Blackjack. And they're the 4 leaders. There's the tracker. Andoo Comanche leads from LawConnect. Hamilton and Island Wild Oats down to leeward, and Blackjack right on the same course as Andoo Comanche and LawConnect. But yes, Michael Hooper, Gordon, close to your heart, a bit of rugby.
Yes, well, he was scheduled to do a Rolex Sydney Hobart a few years ago, but I guess with the pandemic situation, that was thwarted. But he's definitely on board today, and they would be disappointed with that rounding at Canai Point.
Yes, it wasn't the greatest.
So Wild Oats and LawConnect doing battle for second place behind Andoo Comanche at the moment.
Andoo Comanche off, coming up towards Watson's Bay. Just passing the channel marker off Camp Cove. Setting her sight, she's laying through pretty nicely now. So I would doubt whether she'll have to tack for the Clark Island mark, but we'll see how we go once we get round Steel Point, which is in the background.
Peter, the Australian Maxi Championship is being sponsored by the Sydney Brewery, which is owned by Australia's largest independent hotel owner, Dr. Jerry Swartz. His brewing operation started in 2005 with humble beginnings at the family-owned Macquarie Hotel in Surrey Hills, and it has been a massive success story. So Cruising Yacht Club of Australia delighted to welcome major partner Sydney Brewery as part of this Australian Maxi Championship.
The breeze still about 12-13 knots on the harbour out of the southeast. Just looking at it live, and now we're looking at Hamilton Island Wild Oats. And Andoo Comanche's really opened up a good lead from Hamilton Island Wild Oats and LawConnect. Okay, you can see that reaching strut set out on the port side of Andoo Comanche. That's for the next reach down the harbour when they go back to Canai. They just leave it set there. And there are these sheets up here, which means they don't want to get too high up under Nielsen Park Steel Point, because there's a bit of a lee or lighter winds up there. So they'll stand out into the midstream a little and then crank the gear on and lay up into the Shark Island mark. I think that's the strategy that Ian Murray and John Winnie are working at.
Well, they built up a handsome lead over LawConnect and Hamilton Island Wild Oats 11. Still another circuit of the harbour to go, but they are in a commanding position now to take out line honours in the Australian Maxi Championship for 2022, sponsored by Sydney Brewery, and of course the SOLAS Big Boat Challenge.
You can see now, Gordon, how the breeze has got light. Both, well, certainly Andoo Comanche standing almost bolt upright, and behind them, as is LawConnect. The breeze very light under Nielsen Park. There's URM. Marcus Ashley Jones at the helm for the Johnson brothers. They're still in good pressure. They're still just down off South Head, while the leader just trying to get round Nielsen Park, where there's very good breeze in Rose Bay. They're just going to lay into it now. Sails are coming on, they're trimming on. And you can see LawConnect in the background, quite upright. Hasn't got the true breeze yet. Now Andoo Comanche almost in the true breeze out of Rose Bay.
There's Moneypenny, Sean Langman, who leads the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, the Audi Centre Sydney Blue Water point score, winners of the Noakes Sydney Gold Coast race this year. They've had a splendid season, and Sean Langman with a very strong crew. A few mates and quite a few pros as well.
You can see the bow crew on Andoo Comanche getting ready for the next sail selection. They'll carry this jib all the way to the mark at Shark Island, then hoist a bigger sail for just round the back of Shark Island. They'll jibe that and then carry that new sail all the way back to Kenai Point. Probably the J0 again that they carried on the first leg, but they're now into the Trueberries in Rose Bay, and they're probably laying up to the turning mark, and the lead is still very significant.
And we've been at just 21 minutes into the race. We've already been up to Kenai Point below North Head, heading back to Shark Island now. And Andoo Comanche absolutely pulverising her opposition at the moment after getting that brilliant start towards the western shore.
That's Blackjack in the distance in third. And then to the left of the purple hull is Stefan Racing. Then right out in midstream is Hamilton Island Wild Oats. You can see her there, second from the right. She's dropped back a long way. She tacked right on the mark at Kenai, then sailed fairly low and hoping to get up in one. But where she is at the moment, she's going to have to put a couple of tacks in to get round this mark. Stefan Racing launched his boat jest for Carl Kwok, former Sydney Hobart winner. Carl was, not with that boat, but a boat by the name of Boat Jest, as LawConnect now got the true breeze out of Rose Bay and getting the bow up.
So LawConnect clearly back into second place after Hamilton Island Wild Oats has been on a losing tack after rounding Kenai Point.
See the different angles there, LawConnect and Blackjack. They've all taken a big header up here. They're not going to lay into Shark Island by any means to the mark. As I say that, we're seeing off camera Comanche tacking. She's got quickly onto starboard. It'll only be a short one, but for one moment they were laying, for now they're not. There's Wild Oats coming into play. She's done okay, actually. She's just lifted towards the end, and when she comes back on starboard, she'll probably be still ahead of Blackjack. It's going to be close, but now we've got Andoo Comanche just about to tack. There she goes. You can see she's got that new headsail already up in the bow.
Wild Oats is also just tacked.
Okay, a good lay now for Andoo Comanche. Just see the windward rudder right out of the water. That's why she's got two rudders. She puts the bow down now, and she's about 50 metres from the turning mark. Plenty of breeze, 12, 14 knots, maybe more, 15 knots from the southeast.
So Hamilton Island Wild Oats looks as though it's now
Drop back to
third or fourth
I think, Gordon.
Of the 100 footers. And that's bad news as far as the handicap situation for the Australian Maxi Championship is concerned, because they were leading by a point from LawConnect and Blackjack going into this final race.
So we're seeing, there we go, Andoo Comanche's just unfurled their headsail. So they'll run down on Port Jibe, down the side of Shark Island, then Jibe, and then back to Kenai Point. LawConnect will follow them round. and LawConnect, they'll all do the same manoeuvre. You can see they've got the reaching sail up the front. They'll unfurl shortly. Around they go in second spot. And then a fair gap now to third. There's the unfurl. And the next...
There's still a nice margin for Andoo Comanche over LawConnect.
You can see her jibing in the background. They've just gone down the side of the arm. They furl that headsail to jibe. They'll jibe, then unfurl. It's just too big a sail to get through in front of the forestay. Okay, they're around and clean. And here comes Blackjack in third spot.
And a most uncharacteristic fourth position of the 100-footers for Hamilton Island Wild Oats, who actually snuck into second place after rounding the Cano Point mark.
She got stuck out in the middle on the way back there and just kept low, and the boats above her lifted off her. There's the Blackjack on the unfurl. And in the background, LawConnect has just jibed to get onto starboard. So that's the top four. No change between first and second. And they're off again towards Cano Point. So that's Shark Island there. That's a turning mark as the race leader is already streaking away towards Cano Point. Just off camera going back through the fleet. Stefan Racing is in fifth spot. Then URM and Alive. This is on the water, not on handicap, of course.
Andoo Comanche with a lead of 200 metres over LawConnect.
And the boat I haven't seen, Gordon, is Willow, who had those problems at the turning mark. Did they come back on the wind? I haven't seen them. Oh, there's Willow. Okay, just going off camera. Okay, they're there. And then the two tail enders off Steel Point are No Limit and Whisper.
Whisper, the smallest of the Mini Maxis at 62 feet.
She's got the lowest handicap rating, of course, Gordon. So, being the smallest boat, the big boats have got to give her a lot of time. There we are, on board Whisper. There's Michael Coxon with the white hat. He's the tactician on board.
They're currently in fourth place on overall standings for the Mini Maxi Division, but with an opportunity to take advantage, with Willow striking some trouble.
Okay, they're the LawConnect foredeck crew wrestling down the jib, sliding down the inner forestay, or the forestay rather. Big heavy sails, you need plenty of manpower to get that job done.
Christian Beck, the skipper of LawConnect, Tony Mutter, the sailing master, six-time Volvo competitor with 2 wins, and also 2 Sydney Hobart Line Honours successes with Perpetual Loyal and also Comanche. So a lot of experience, fantastic crew on LawConnect, owned by the software magnate and entrepreneur Christian Beck.
Chris Nicholson also aboard, Australian Olympian, top-class Australian sailor. round the world yachtsman. And Andoo Comanche in the distance off the Western Channel pile on the harbour. That's middle head between the two boats. So they're about halfway down this reach to Kenai Point. That's Blackjack and Hamilton Island Wild Oats. They're a fair way back now. They'll be 200 to 300 metres behind LawConnect. Breeze got a bit soft again in the middle of the harbour.
We've been racing for just over half an hour, and already Andoo Comanche converging on the Kenai Point mark, the rounding mark, for the second and last time.
You can see Andoo Comanche in the distance got a real big header heading gust, and they put the bow right down. They'll just wait till the gust dissipates a little and then get the bow up and aim at the mark at Kenai Point. He's hardened the gear up now, Andoo Comanche, and is heading pretty close to the mark. There's your tracker. You can see Andoo Comanche between middle head and south head. And no LawConnect. She hasn't sunk, don't worry. She is on the harbour, we can see her.
And she's trailing by 200 metres.
And I think again, Andoo Comanche's extended down here, Gordon. She's really showing a good pair of heels today.
Well, it's her Maxi Championship to lose now. Barring any mishap or accident, Andoo Comanche has the SOLAS Big Boat Challenge and the Australian Maxi Championship for Lion Honours at her mercy.
Well, don't forget we saw a protest flag on Blackjack. That could come into play. Who knows what that's about, but just look at the width of that LawConnect and the white water coming out from behind her. Should be doing 20 knots there, 21 knots.
Representing the Greenwich Flying Squadron, Christian Beck ventured into ocean racing 5 years ago when he purchased the Super Maxi as Perpetual Loyal and raced in the Rolex Sydney Hobart for the first time. Some of the other ace crew on board, Alex Goff Trimmer, Mitch White, Mustafa Ingham, Brian Phillips, a well-known name, formerly with Wild Oats 11, Troy Tyndall, and also Sam Newton. But this is the one they have to catch. And will they catch? We don't think so. But as Peter mentioned, there is a protest flag flying from Blackjack.
Manly Wharf in the background as they put the bow down to furl the reaching sail on Andoo Comanche. Really nice clean foil. You can see the orange turning mark come up quickly on the right of screen in a moment. There it is, 1, 2, 3, there it is, they're around. Clocks are running.
They've certainly increased that lead. Probably doubled the lead after the first rounding at Kenai Point.
Yep, tacking basically right on the mark. There's the furling sail just coming down now. Big heavy sail, plenty of guys About 8 guys forward of the mast working to get that sail down. John Winning Jr. at the helm. So while we're at the Canai Point mark, Gordon, a little bit of Sydney Hobart trivia. This is where the first Sydney Hobart race started in 1945. Wasn't down the harbour near Shark Island, it was right here at Canai Point.
Well, that's fascinating, Peter. And just six boats in the fleet from memory?
9.
9 boats in the fleet,
yeah.
but Rani, the 34-footer, successful for Captain John Illingworth.
So the lead, 1 minute 15 to Andoo Comanche over LawConnect. Boy, Blackjack's got way ahead of Wild Oats. I don't know what's happened to Wild Oats. They're way back. We believe Wild Oats just had a jib up at one stage. So we're watching LawConnect tacking, and that's what they're looking at up in the distance is Andoo Comanche. There's Blackjack screaming around the markers, but there they are.
And they're trying to put themselves in position for the handicap honours in the 100-footer Maxi Championship.
Well, they've got a pretty good handicap compared to LawConnect and Andoo Comanche. Even though they're all 100-footers, they rate a fair bit lower than the other 2 big wide boats. Standing on a fair bit here, Blackjack. They should be tacking. There they go.
Representing the Monaco Yacht Club and the Royal Queensland Yacht Squadron, skipper Mark Bradford is the boss of the all-conquering North Sails Loft. Fully professional crew on board. Some of the best sailors globally steering the 100-footer Blackjack, who took line honours in the Rolex Sydney Hobart in 2021. Finally, for Peter Harburg.
Well, that's Wild Oats, Hamilton Island Wild Oats, still going down to the mark. They must have had real trouble there because they were quite close to Blackjack at the turning mark at Shark Island. Just furling their sail now. They'll be almost 4 minutes behind Andoo Comanche.
Very frustrating outing for Wild Oats 11, and they were pleased actually with the fact that there were no breakages in the 2 passage races yesterday as part of the Australian Maxi Championship. They squeezed through into second place across the line in both races, but it hasn't been their race today.
But these 3 boats standing between Sydney heads now, beautiful sailing conditions, 12 to maybe 16 knots southeasterly breeze. Couldn't be better. Nice, flat, calm water. A few little waves rolling through the heads, but nothing extreme by any means. That's what the Blackjack boys are looking at. LawConnect ahead of them, and then a fair distance to Andoo Comanche. And there's the smaller Mini Maxis running down with reaching spinnakers. That group's headed by Willow, who have got they've done okay. They were a little bit chicken winged up at the weather mark the first time, but they've got themselves into 4th spot on the water. Jim Cooney, maybe Michael Hooper might be driving Gordo to get them up there.
Yes, I think he's obviously... Well, we know that he enjoys his pizzas. He's certainly been carbo loading.
Well, he's certainly a winner. So anyway, they've done a good job to get themselves up into 5th spot. This boat was built as Ericsson for the Round the World race. Designed by 1K, built it and launched in 2007. And there's Stefan Racing. She's dropped back to 6th spot.
It certainly made their presence felt early on, as they did at the start of the Rolex Sydney Hobart last year, when they finished 4th across the line, the boat an 80-footer.
And the first black spinnaker is URM.
LawConnect in 2nd place ahead of Blackjack.
Just off Lady Bay Beach, just north of Camp Cove. Okay, that's URM. Just ahead of her, the first black spinnaker was alive actually. She's wriggled her way up in front of URM. 2018 Hobart winner, and 2nd in 2019, but there's URM. And also, as we approach past Alive, she's got a protest flag flying as well. So there might be a bit to play out in the protest room tonight, who knows?
But URM in a very good position to take out the Mini Maxi Australian Championship.
We're on Sean Langman's Moneypenny. She's just approaching the Sow Pigs Reef to the western side. Good pressure now. The breeze has built a little bit here. There's good 15, 16 knots of true wind speed out of the southeast. There's Moneypenny. Back on Andoo. And we're back with the No Limit and Whisper. That's No Limit left of screen. David Goats boat, and then David Griffiths will come into screen shortly on the Whisper. That's No Limit. That's the action aboard the cockpit of No Limit. She was 3rd in the 2018 Sydney Hobart race as Voodoo. But there's no Voodoo here at the moment for Andoo Comanche. She's holding all the aces. She's off Bottle and Glass, streaking along the shoreline. Will set a similar course as she did last time, to stand off Steel Point, probably not as far, and try and lay into the Shark Island mark in 1. That's Steel Point, top left at the southwestern end of Nielsen Park.
And then a spectacular finish near Fort Denison at the Opera House for Andoo Comanche.
Well, they'll run down towards that way. The finishing line will be a bit shorter this year because of all the dredging work at Fort Denison, but she's a clear leader, and the breeze is quite spiky now in Rose Bay.
It's certainly one of the quickest SOLAS Big Boat challenges we've seen, Peter. We've been on the water for 45 minutes, and Andoo Comanche closing fast on that Shark Island rounding.
A bit like a finish in the Derwent River for the Hobart race, Gordon, isn't it? All these spectator boats charging alongside her.
And we're just hoping that maybe we might see the 100-footers, the 4 racing here today, all in the Derwent at the same time. But Andoo Comanche won't have any of that. John Winnie Jr. says no. We're going to make every post a winner for Hobart in 2022. Certainly, he's been setting the pace right throughout this Australian Maxi Championship.
Yes, they've got a bit closer to Steel Point this time to try and lay through to Shark Island in one. They had to put a short tack in before. She's now just in the true breeze around Steel Point. A few spectator boats probably getting a bit too close. That's the view looking aft. Andoo, Comanche, LawConnect, Blackjack, Hamilton Island, Wild Oats 11.
Probably nearly a kilometre separating first to fourth there of the 100 footers. Hamilton Island Wild Oats 11 actually rates quite well of the 100 footers, so it was leading on the handicap coming into this climactic race, but whether it's going to be enough to catch LawConnect or even Blackjack for that matter remains to be seen on handicap.
Andoo, Comanche has the highest rating, and then LawConnect is the second highest, and then Blackjack and Wild Oats are basically the same handicap rating. So as we've seen, LawConnect still in the lee of Nielsen Park, Steel Point. Now, will they lay through? I don't think so at the moment. They're probably going to have to put a little shortener in to get round the weather mark on the Andoo, Comanche. They're just heading slightly. Yeah, they'll certainly have to tack from there, unless they get a massive lift, which I don't think they're going to get.
Andoo, Comanche had a brilliant start to this year's race, starting closest to the pin end, accelerated in startling fashion off the line to overtake LawConnect early on, which had an excellent start, but just that nimbleness, the speed of the fatter Andoo, Comanche told the story early on.
A slight gain to LawConnect. If we saw it before, we just went to this close-up of Andoo, Comanche, pointing very much higher than Andoo, Comanche, looking to try and lay this in one. There's Andoo, Comanche tacking. And you'll see when they come across on starboard, you'll see LawConnect has stayed very high. Come on, boys, get that headsail in. You'll see LawConnect almost on a lay line, but still no worries for Andoo, Comanche here. She's about very close to attack. That's the distance. 3, 2, 1. Come on, boys, let's go. There they go. And already that next sail is up to the masthead.
LawConnect has certainly closed the gap, Peter.
Well, she's got through in one, which will close it up a little. But these big sails, they're all on roller furlers. They go to the top of the mast, they're locked off, and then they're hydraulically adjusted to make sure they stay tight, which is key to getting a good furl and unfurl. Okay, bow down now, and she's on her way towards the finishing line. Jib eased. See that strut out to leeward of the starboard side just to open the sheeting angle. See the massive width of this boat. She just sails so well on that leeward chine and leeward part of the hull. Just not... There they go, there's the furl. And that's the distance. Finishing line up off Garden Island. They're just going to the finish now, just all pretty much plain sailing. LawConnect around, and then a long gap to Blackjack and Wild Oats 11.
And Peter, doing it on one tack there, LawConnect was able to take out 35 seconds with that lead to Andoo Comanche at Cannock Point.
Yep. LawConnect just still haven't quite set sail yet. There it goes now. White water everywhere here as the spectators follow Andoo Comanche to the finishing line. Well, she's proved the boat to beat for Hobart race, even though this is just a harbour race, even in the Cabbage Tree Island race and the other long races this year. She's been outstanding and really hasn't been challenged as yet, but 628 miles to Hobart is a long way and a lot can happen.
Well, she was disqualified after a protest yesterday in the second passage race after an incident at the start. But otherwise, she's taken line honours in every event in the Sydney Brewery Australian Maxi Championship. And she will be crowned here, subject to any protest outcome, as the Australian Maxi Champion on line honours for 2022.
Yeah, terrific performance again by John Winning Jr. and his crew. Very polished, no mistakes. Good start, very good sail handling. And it's not easy on these big boats, especially in these short courses. Absolutely no room for mistake. They haven't made any today. They're really smoking towards the finish now. They'll be doing 25 knots here in this southeasterly breeze. They're about 100 metres from the finishing line. It's committee boat just to the right. There they are, just a bow out of the water. And we'll get a time delta here. It'll be, I think, the biggest margin of the race so far.
Yes, built just 8 years ago by American billionaire Jim Clark and his supermodel wife, Christy Hens.
Here they go.
At a reputed cost of $20 million.
Pocket money, absolute pocket money for Jim Clark. There we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, well done. Oh, look at that. What a sight. Absolutely full wick.
Like a rocket ship blasting at Cape Canaveral there as she crossed the line. Andoo Comanche, the Australian Maxi Champion for Sydney Brewery in 2022.
Absolute commanding performance. As LawConnect will be second. And this is going to be well over a minute, this victory for Andoo Comanche.
Yes, they picked up another 20 seconds, 25 seconds on that final leg.
This is a perfect angle, sailing angle for these big boats. Tight reach, breeze 15, 16 knots, and they're closing this finishing line at 20 knots plus.
LawConnect's been chasing Andoo Comanche right throughout this Australian Maxi Championship, and the same again today in the SOLAS Big Boat Challenge.
Okay, they're just about to finish. They're there now. That's a minute 30. I make that, Gordon, roughly. And here we come with Blackjack also hammering into the finish in third spot. All these boats are absolutely rocketing along.
And with Blackjack's, as you mentioned, Peter, better handicap rating, will this be a performance that can put them into first place on handicap in the 100-footer Maxi Championship?
Should be about 3 minutes behind, I think.
So Blackjack, Peter Harburg and Mark Bradford, the Rifle-Pew 100. Across the line in third place behind Andoo, Comanche and Lawmaker. LawConnect.
And we're watching a bit of a sorry sight here as Hamilton Island Wild Oats 11. They haven't got a reaching sail set now. Maybe they had some problems when they dropped so far back on that leg from Shark Island to Kenai Point. They're just reaching home with this headsail set. A rather forlorn sight. A long way back. They're a couple of minutes behind Blackjack.
The body language says it all on Hamilton Island Wild Oats.
Yes, compared to the other three, they're really dawdling along.
So frustrating outing for Hamilton Island Wild Oats, but we know this grand lady will be looking for her 10th Lion Honours win in the Rolex Sydney Hobart come Boxing Day, and this is a boat you can never write off.
Just looking for a bit of pressure under that headsail. They haven't got anywhere near the speed that the other three finished with because of lack of sail area now.
Stan Honey, the US navigator, Murray Jones, dual Olympian from Auckland, New Zealand, America's Cup victor on many occasions. Very powerful crew. Daniel Oatley also on board, the grandson of the late Robert Oatley. And he steered the boat across the finishing line for Lion Honours in 2018. Special honour for Daniel Oatley.
Already 5 minutes has gone since Andoo Comanche finished, and Wild Oats is still about 30 seconds from the finishing line. Okay, well that's the Willow and Stefan racing around Shark Island. They are 5th and 6th respectively on the water. Here's our tracker. Let's see.
And I think it's a real family affair on Willow, Peter. Co-owner Samantha Turner on board with husband Jim Cooney, and James and Dougie, their sons, and I think their youngest daughter, who's just 16, is also on board, but still too young to go on the Rolex Sydney Hobart. They'll be hoping for a nice hard blow in the Hobart race. Very tough competitor, Willow, the former Volvo 70.
Yeah, they were built to reach it. If they get easterly, southeasterly conditions, they'll be very strong in the Hobart race. Andrew Cape, well-known Australian. He's aboard as navigator. Won the race before, the Hobart, that is, a couple of times.
They also have Rob Kane from Newport, Rhode Island, formerly from Hobart, the ace Kiwi trimmer, Daryl Wishlang.
Just watching Stefan racing, unfurling their sails, spinning reaching sail to go down to the finish. They're in 6th spot on the water. Certainly.
She was built for Carl Kwok, who named her Beau Jest. And she finished 5th online in the 2017 Hobart race. And the last of the 5 bigger boats inside that 2016 race record. So she's a proven performer, and Grant Warrington also has Oliver Warrington on board.
Just see the distance. Willow's going up for pressure. They've really run out of a bit of breeze here as they're getting past the lee of Point Piper. We saw that certainly LawConnect and Andoo Comanche have plenty of pressure. Willow just starting to get a bit of pressure and put the bow down, but both these boats very soft in wind pressure. Willow just getting it now. You can see the weight coming off her stern.
Willow a 70-footer, Stefan an 80-footer.
More breeze now coming out of double bays. They'll get to these 2 boats and get them home, I think. So we'll go back and have a look at the remainder of the fleet. Who's still around Shark Island.
And well done, Stefan Racing, the Queensland entry by invitation in the SOLAS Big Boat Challenge here today. And Peter, we should mention SOLAS and the fact that it's a trust that really focuses on raising money for people who are involved in sailing, who maybe have accidents or mishaps, but it's very much a support mechanism and has raised nearly a couple of $1 million.
Okay, well here's Alive having trouble with their furl or unfurl. As URM powers around behind them, their furl's good. Alive's is not that good. They've got all sorts of trouble, the Alive, with their unfurl. URM will charge down on top of them. Oh, that doesn't look a good unfurl on the Alive. Meanwhile, the URM boys are charging at them.
And they're in great shape to really clinch the Mini Maxi Championship.
You can see how that furl has tangled itself up. It's still furled at the top of the mast and still furled down towards the tack or the bowsprit. They're getting the headsail down, but it's not set anywhere near to 100%, and this will allow URM to roll over the top of them.
The original Shockwave, built by John McConaughey and launched as Alfa Romeo 3 for Neville Crichton, who raced her very successfully overseas.
Just see what a disadvantage that is to Alive when they couldn't get that unfurled out properly. URM just charges away, and now they get it out. But it's too late to hold off URM. The unfurl always relates to the furl. If you have a good furl when you furl the sail up, it'll come out, but it's a bit untidy when you furl it up. You pay the penalty when you try and unfurl it, and that's what we saw happen to Alive. These 2 boats now about halfway down between Shark Island and the finish near Garden Island. What a sight that is. Sydney skyline, the Harbour Bridge, and been a perfect day sailing out here.
Well, Alive's not going to go down without a fight here in this battle with URM to the finishing line. It's going to be very tight. URM, certainly one of the form boats, 4th overall in the Audi Centre Sydney Blue Water point score. 1st in the Flinders Island race, 2nd in the Tollgate Islands race, and 3rd in the Bird Island race.
Well, they're still playing hard, URM. They're just putting a staysail up. It's a little sail front of the mast, a little bit more sail area. Alive, struggling for pressure. They're trying to put the bow up. Boat tilted to windward as URM get a terrific puff as they unfurl the staysail. Mainsail goes out, bow goes down, and away they go. Good job, URM.
Yes, I think they just thumbed their nose at Alive.
Yeah. Alive now in the wake of URM. They really stubbed their toe there. Alive went with that unfurl that was very untidy, but URM streaky towards the finishing line. Probably about 150 metres to go. So URM will be about 13 minutes behind Andoo Comanche. And Alive, you know, a couple of boat lengths behind URM.
And Alive was the third Tasmanian winner of the Rolex Sydney Hobart back in 2018 on handicap, and the first Tasmanian winner in 40 years.
So Alive has got a slightly better handicap than URM, and if they, I would think, if they finish as they are now, that probably Alive could beat URM on handicap. There's not much in it, but probably enough to give Alive the handicap advantage over URM. There's Alive going up on the hip of URM. So URM just gets there, probably by half a boat length, but that will probably mean Alive will beat URM on handicap. It'll be close.
But overall, you'd think the Mini Maxi Division will go to URM, having been so consistent.
I think that'll be the case, Gordon, yes.
And Alive and Willow having a real ding-dong go for the second place on handicap.
Yeah, it'll be interesting on handicap to see how it all pans out, but the officials will have to crunch the numbers and to see if they protest that we saw the flags flying on Blackjack and Alive, I think, were flying protest flags. As we look now at the tail enders coming around Shark Island for the run to the finish. And there's no limit. Just hoisting the reaching sail. It's getting trimmed down. They're around Shark Island.
78-year-old Tony Ellis on board, Peter, preparing for his 54th Rolex Sydney Hobart. 41 of those with Sid Fisher.
The man they know as Ace or Grumpy.
What do you call him?
Grumpy. No, he's a terrific bloke, Tony. America's Cup yachtsman. Board Dame Paddy in 1967. Admiral's Cup. It's done it all. So as we look now, 3 boats hammering to the finish. We're on Moneypenny and that's to lure to those 3 is Whisper, then No Limit, then Moneypenny. So Whisper's got himself away from these 2 and probably in good shape handicap wise as his lowest rating boat. So that's Whisper to the left. The white spinnaker belongs to No Limit. And the dark spinnaker belongs to Moneypenny, who's won't be happy with this performance, that's for sure.
But still been very consistent in the Audi Centre Sydney Blue Water point score. And remember, the Rolex Sydney Hobart points count for double, so Moneypenny very much in the fray as far as the Blue Water point score is concerned. And having a private war with No Limit in this final helter-skelter sprint to the finish. Got quite a few guests on board, Peter.
It's a good battle between these three. I think Whisper's going to get the better of the battle, and Sean Langman the worst of the battle, as we're looking at Moneypenny here. So from the top, Moneypenny, No Limit, Whisper.
Sean Langman on the helm of Moneypenny. His son Peter will be skippering Maluka, the smallest boat in the Rolex Sydney Hobart at 30 feet.
And the Whisper getting a really good gust down to leeward. Just throwing mainsail at it to try and get to the finishing line, which they'll lay through very nicely. So Whisper across there about 16 minutes astern of Andoo Comanche. So they're across, Whisper's across. No Limit will be next. So Whisper will beat both these boats on handicap because they're the lowest rating boat. So No Limit is almost there, she's there. And then final boat to finish will be the Moneypenny.
And Sean Langman is still sailing the 18-footers, Peter.
He's been racing his boat in New Zealand. He's bringing it back for the championships later in the year, we believe, as he crosses the line in the final position.
And he sailed his 60-foot trimaran Team Australia to Hobart in 2013 in 1 day 6 hours, beating the mono hull record. So he's a versatile man. Moneypenny, 69 feet, was lengthened a few years ago from 65, and has had a tough time of it really during the Maxi Championship as a Mini Maxi entrant. But will be all guns firing for the Rolex Sydney Hobart. Well, Peter Shipway, it's been an eventful day on beautiful Sydney Harbour for the SOLAS Big Boat Challenge, which decides the 2022 Australian Maxi Championship, sponsored by Sydney Brewery. The second time we've had the Australian Maxi Championship, and depending on results of protests, we saw a couple of protest flags. It looks as though Andoo Comanche, with another brilliant performance, leading from go to woe in this year's race, should clinch the Australian Maxi Championship for the 100-footers. Handicap-wise, well, that is certainly up in the air. And the same with the Mini Maxis from 60 to 79 feet. But how have you enjoyed what has been just over 65 minutes of action here on Sydney Harbour?
Well, I think to see these big boats charging around the harbour, especially the 100-footers in a lovely sailing breeze of 12 to 15 knots, it is just world-class stuff. And these boats are all very well sailed, and they're massive machines, spectacular, charging down the harbour at 20 knots plus. It's a rare sight, and it wouldn't be seen anywhere else in the world because 4 of these Maxis are here, and even the Mini Maxis are spectacular. So you'd be very hard to please if you didn't enjoy today's sailing.
And look, we've had some fantastic pictures, courtesy of Jim Bury, the skipper of Sail Media, and Michael Chittenden, our director. Cameras on boats and the drone. It really has been a glorious outing on the harbour, and a glorious finale to the Sydney Brewery Australian Maxi Championship and the SOLAS Big Boat Challenge going to Andoo Comanche. So it's all to be confirmed as far as official results are concerned. But on behalf of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, please join us at the CYC at Rushcutters Bay in the lead up to the Rolex Sydney Hobart. It's the ocean racing headquarters here in Australia, and a real hub, a real nerve centre leading into the Rolex Sydney Hobart. Peter Shipway, thank you for your commentary, and we look forward to your commentary with Mark Beretta on Boxing Day on Channel 7 at the start of another great race.
Thanks, Gordon. Been a pleasure to be with you, and terrific to be on the harbour once more to see these boats charging round, and full marks to our sail media team today.
It's goodbye from Sydney Harbour.